The alarms on Haven's Gate station screamed into the night cycle. Captain Jiho Kwan was drinking his third cup of coffee when the emergency call came through. Something massive was drifting toward the station, and it was still alive. He ran to the bridge of his ship, the Resilience. His crew was already there, staring at the screens with wide eyes. On the display, they could see something huge floating in space. It looked like a cross between a whale and a starfish, with glowing patterns across its skin that pulsed weakly. "What is that thing?" asked Taeyang, the ship's engineer. His fingers moved quickly across his controls, trying to get better readings. Dr. Hana Park leaned closer to her screen. She was the ship's expert on alien life, and she had never seen anything like this. I think it's a Valdrine," she whispered. "But that's impossible. They're supposed to be extinct." The creature was enormous, at least 200 meters long. Deep wounds covered its body, and some kind of green fluid leaked from the cuts. The glowing patterns on its skin were fading. Even from their ship, they could tell it was dying. Within an hour, the station was filled with representatives from a dozen different alien species. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Everyone wanted to see the strange creature, but no one wanted to get too close. Jiho stood in the council chamber and watched as each species sent their medical experts to examine the Valdrine. The Threlians, with their insect-like bodies, scanned it with their advanced technology. The tall blue-skinned Valorians checked its vital signs. The Quintari, who looked like floating crystals, analyzed its energy readings. One by one, each expert gave the same report. The creature was dying. Its biology was too different from anything they knew. Saving it would take months of work, massive amounts of resources, and might not even succeed. The risk was too high. The cost was too great. The Threlian ambassador spoke first. Its voice came through a translator device. "We cannot justify the expense. Our resources must be used efficiently. This creature provides no benefit to our people." The Valorian representative nodded sadly. "We wish we could help, but our medical technology is not compatible. We would do more harm than good." The Quintari simply stated, "It is already dead. We would be preserving a corpse, nothing more." Other species added their own reasons: legal problems, political complications, unknown diseases, ancient territorial disputes. Each excuse sounded reasonable, logical, and cold. Jiho felt his hands curl into fists. He looked at his crew members scattered around the chamber. Hana had tears in her eyes. Taeyang looked angry. The young communications officer, Minho, just stared at the floor. The council leader, an elderly Morpheus whose skin changed colors when he spoke, addressed the chamber. "Then we are in agreement. The creature will be left to die in peace. We will move it away from the station to avoid any contamination. This meeting is concluded." "No." The single word came from Jiho. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at him. The room went completely silent. "Captain Kwan?" the council leader said. "Do you have something to add?" Jiho walked to the center of the chamber. He was not a tall man, and he felt very small, surrounded by aliens who were twice his size. But he stood straight and spoke clearly. "We'll stay," he said. "The human crew of the Resilience will stay with the creature. We'll try to save it." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens spoke over each other in a dozen different languages. The translator struggled to keep up. "Impossible!" shouted one alien. "Foolish!" cried another. "A waste of resources," a third added. The council leader raised his appendage for silence. "Captain Kwan, I respect your compassion, but surely you understand this is not logical. Your ship is a research vessel, not a hospital. You do not have the equipment or expertise to save this creature. You will fail, and you will have wasted weeks or months of your time for nothing." Jiho looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some looked confused. Some looked angry. A few looked almost sad. "Maybe we will fail," Jiho said quietly. "Maybe you're right, and we'll spend months trying to save something that can't be saved. But we're going to try anyway. Because where we come from, you don't leave someone to die alone just because it's difficult. You don't walk away because the odds are bad. You stay, you fight, even when it doesn't make sense." He turned to face the council leader directly. "You asked me if I understand it's not logical. I do. But being human isn't about logic. It's about doing what's right even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." The council leader studied him for a long moment. Then he made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "Very well. If you wish to waste your time and resources, that is your choice. The council will not stop you. But do not expect any assistance from us. We don't," Jiho said simply. One by one, the aliens filed out of the chamber. They returned to their ships and left the station. Within hours, Haven's Gate was quiet again. The only ship that remained near the dying creature was the Resilience. Jiho gathered his crew in the cargo bay. They stood in a circle, looking at each other nervously. Through the large window, they could see the Valdrine floating in the darkness of space, its lights growing dimmer. "I won't order anyone to stay," Jiho told them. "This is volunteer only. If anyone wants to leave, there's a transport leaving for Earth in 2 hours. No judgment, no questions asked. This is going to be hard. We might fail. We probably will fail." No one moved. No one spoke. Then Taiyang stepped forward. "I'm staying," he said. "I didn't join this crew to run away when things get difficult." Hana was next. "That creature out there is alone and scared." "I'm staying," Minho nodded. "Me too." One by one, every crew member stepped forward. All 32 people on the Resilience chose to stay. Jiho felt his throat tighten with pride. "All right then," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Let's get to work. Hana, I need you to figure out how that thing's biology works. Taiyang, start modifying the cargo bay into a medical center. Minho, see if you can communicate with it. Everyone else, you know your jobs." The crew scattered to their tasks. Jiho stayed by the window watching the dying alien. Its lights pulsed weakly like a failing heartbeat. "We're here," he whispered to the creature, knowing it couldn't hear him. "We're not leaving. You're not dying alone." In the darkness of space, the Valdrine's lights flickered once more as if in response. The cargo bay of the Resilience looked like organized chaos. Taiyang and his engineering team had torn out storage units and replaced them with a makeshift medical station. Tubes and wires ran everywhere. Machines that were never meant to work together hummed and beeped in strange harmony. Dr. Hana Park stood in the middle of it all, her eyes red from lack of sleep. It had been 3 days since they brought the Valdrine inside. 3 days of constant work, and the creature was still dying. "Talk to me, Hana," Jiho said, bringing her a cup of coffee. "What do we know?" Hana rubbed her face tiredly. "Not enough. Its biology is completely different from anything in our database. It doesn't have blood like we do. Instead, it has this thick, glowing fluid that carries nutrients and oxygen, but the fluid is breaking down. Without it, the creature's organs are failing." She pointed to a screen showing complex readings. "See these spikes? That's pain. It's in constant agony, but it hasn't made a sound. I don't even know if it can make sounds." Across the bay, Minho sat surrounded by computers trying to understand the patterns of light on the creature's skin. Every few minutes, the Valdrine would glow in different colors and patterns. Minho believed these were attempts to communicate. "I think I'm getting something," Minho called out. He was young, barely 25, but he was the best linguist on the ship. "These patterns repeat. They're not random. It's trying to tell us something." He pulled up his latest translation attempt. The words were fragmented and confusing. "Home, gone, alone, and..." "It's given up," Hana said softly. "It thinks it's going to die." "Not if we have anything to say about it," came a new voice. Dr. Suho Chang entered the bay, carrying a box of equipment. He was the ship's surgeon, a man who had saved countless lives in emergency situations. "I have an idea. It might be crazy, but so is this entire situation," he explained his theory. The Valdrine's fluid wasn't clotting properly. On Earth, when humans got injured, their blood would clot to stop the bleeding. But this creature's fluid just kept leaking out. Suho believed that the fluid needed a specific type of electromagnetic frequency to trigger clotting. "How do we generate that frequency?" Jiho asked. Taiyang grinned. "The ship's engines. If I recalibrate them just right, they'll produce the exact frequency we need. But there's a catch. It'll drain our power reserves. We'll have to shut down everything non-essential." "Do it," Jiho ordered. For the next 12 hours, Taiyang and his team worked on the engines. The ship's lights dimmed. The heating system cut to minimum levels. Crew members started wearing extra layers of clothing as the temperature dropped. But it worked. Slowly, the Valdrine's wounds began to close. The glowing fluid stopped leaking. For the first time in days, Hana saw the creature's vital signs stabilize. "We did it," she breathed. "We actually did it." The celebration was short-lived. That night, the power reserves hit critical levels. Lieutenant Yuna Kim, the security officer, came to Jiho with bad news. "Captain, we need to make a choice. Either we keep the engines running at this frequency, or we keep life support in the crew quarters. We don't have enough power for both. Jiho called a crew meeting. Everyone gathered in the mess hall, shivering in the cold. Here's the situation, he told them honestly. We can keep the medical bay running, but we'll have to shut down life support in our quarters. That means we work in environment suits, sleep in shifts in the medical bay where there's heat, and basically live in discomfort for however long this takes. Or, someone asked, or we reduce power to the medical bay, restore our comfort, and watch the creature die. The vote was unanimous. Comfort could wait. The creature's life couldn't. Days blurred together. The crew worked in rotating shifts, sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor of the medical bay. They ate cold meals because the galley was shut down. They wore their environment suits constantly, the recycled air tasting stale after hours of breathing it. But they didn't complain. When one person got too tired, another took over. When someone struggled with a problem, the team worked together to solve it. They became a single unit with one purpose: keep the Valdrine alive. On the 10th day, something changed. Minho had finally cracked part of the creature's language. He set up a simple system where the Valdrine could make patterns, and the computer would translate them into basic words. The first real message came through late at night. Jiho was checking on the creature when the screen lit up with translated text. Why, stay? Already gone. Jiho felt his heart clench. He walked closer to the observation window. The Valdrine's massive eye rolled to look at him. It was an eye bigger than Jiho's entire body, but in it, he saw something unmistakable. Sadness. Resignation. The creature had given up hope. Jiho placed his hand on the window. We stay because you're not gone yet. While you're still breathing, we'll keep fighting. More patterns flickered across the creature's skin. More words appeared on the screen. All others left. Why? Humans. Different? Jiho thought about how to answer. How do you explain humanity to an alien who comes from a completely different culture? Finally, he said. Because we believe every life matters. Not because of what you can do for us. Not because it's logical or profitable. Just because you exist. That's enough. The creature went still for a long moment. Then new patterns emerged, brighter than before. Thank you. I remember this. News of the humans' efforts spread beyond Haven's Gate. Ships passing through the sector heard about the crazy human crew trying to save an impossible case. Some aliens docked at the station just to watch from a distance. They whispered among themselves, calling the humans foolish, naive, or wasteful. But a few watched with something different in their eyes. Curiosity, confusion, maybe even a little bit of shame. On the 15th day, Hana made a breakthrough. While studying the creature's cellular structure, she found something incredible. The Valdrine had regenerative abilities built into its DNA. Its body could heal itself, but only if it had enough energy and nutrients. The problem was the creature was so injured and malnourished that its regeneration had shut down completely. It's like a backup generator, she explained to Jiho. Once it turns off, it needs a massive surge of power to restart. If we can stabilize it long enough, if we can give it enough nutrients, the regeneration might kick in naturally. How long? Jiho asked. Hana hesitated. Best case? Another month. Maybe 2. Jiho looked around at his exhausted crew. They were running on determination and coffee, but when he asked if they wanted to continue, every single person said yes. We've come this far, Taiyang said, his voice firm despite his exhaustion. We don't quit now. That night, Jiho sent messages back to Earth. He told Command that the resilience would be delayed by at least 2 months. He told the families of his crew members that their loved ones chose to stay for something important. The responses came back within days. No one demanded they return. No one called them foolish. Instead, every message said something similar. We understand. That's what humans do. We stay when others leave. Make us proud. Jiho posted those messages in the mess hall for everyone to see. When crew members felt tired or doubted themselves, they could read the words and remember why they were there. In the medical bay, the Valdrine's lights pulsed steadily. Its wounds were healing. Its vital signs were stronger. It was still a long way from recovery, but for the first time, survival seemed possible. The creature sent a new message through Minho's translation system. Just 3 simple words that made the entire crew smile. I believe now. 3 weeks had passed since the Resilience crew began their vigil. The cargo bay had become their entire world. They worked, ate, and slept within its metal walls, watching over their massive patient with endless dedication. Ensign Gina Song was on communication duty when everything changed. She was young and idealistic, the newest member of the crew, and she had spent every spare moment working on the translation software. While Minho had cracked the basic patterns, Gina wanted to go deeper. She wanted real conversation. Late one night, she sat cross-legged on the floor with her laptop, trying different algorithms. The Valdrine rested nearby, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing slowly like a calm heartbeat. Suddenly, her computer chimed. She had done it. Real, clear translation. Her hands shook as she typed a simple message and converted it into light patterns. The projection danced across the creature's skin. "Can you understand me?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Valdrine's entire body lit up with patterns more complex than anything they had seen before. The translation came through clearly. "Yes. Finally, I hear you. I understand you." Gina's shout woke up half the crew. Within minutes, everyone crowded around her station. Captain Jiho knelt beside her, his eyes wide with amazement. Ask it its name," he said softly. Gina's fingers flew across the keyboard. The creature's response filled the screen. "My name translates poorly to your language. The closest meaning is breath of ancients, or simply breath. It speaks of continuity, of life passed from one generation to the next. But I am the last. There is no next breath after me." The sadness in those words hit the crew like a physical weight. Hana wiped tears from her eyes. Even Tough Taeyang looked away, his jaw clenched. "Tell us your story, Breath," Jiho said gently. "We want to understand." What followed was a tale that broke their hearts. Breath spoke slowly, the translation sometimes stumbling over concepts that had no human equivalent. But the basic story came through clearly. The Valdrine had once been numerous, spread across many star systems. They were ancient explorers who traveled the galaxy not to conquer or trade, but to nurture. They found young civilizations and helped them grow. They discovered barren planets and seeded them with life. They were gardeners of the cosmos, asking nothing in return. "We believed all life was precious," Breath explained. "We believed in potential. A small seed could become a mighty tree. A simple organism could evolve into something magnificent. We wanted to see all life flourish. But their kindness had been seen as a threat. An empire called the Catharan rose to power. They believed in strength and domination. They saw the Valdrine's gentle influence on young civilizations as competition. If races developed with Valdrine values of cooperation and compassion, they would never bow to Catharan rule. So the Catharan hunted the Valdrine. It took centuries, but they were thorough. They destroyed Valdrine ships, burned Valdrine worlds, and eliminated every member of the species they could find. "I ran," Breath said, and the shame in those words was clear even through translation. "I was young and afraid. While my family fought and died, I ran. I have been running for 50 of your years. Hiding, surviving, alone." "The wounds that brought you here?" Yuna asked quietly. "Keither and Patrol found me. I barely escaped. I had nowhere else to run. I came to Haven's Gate hoping for sanctuary, but I knew the truth. I am finished. My people are gone. Our knowledge, our culture, our way of life, all ended with me." Commander Hyun Ro, the first officer, had been standing quietly in the back. He was older than most of the crew, with gray in his hair and lines on his face from years of service. Now he pushed forward. "Why did you ask us why we stayed?" he asked Breath. "When the captain first talked to you, you asked why we were different." The Valdrine's patterns shifted to colors they had learned meant uncertainty. "Because I do not understand you. Every species I encountered at the station left me. They had logical reasons, good reasons. Saving me was inefficient, risky, potentially dangerous. They were right to leave. But we stayed," Hyun said. "Yes, and I cannot understand why. You use resources. You sacrifice comfort. You risk your ship and your lives. For what purpose? I provide you nothing. I am not useful. I am not profitable. I am simply alive. In my experience, that has never been enough reason." The crew exchanged glances. "How do you explain something so fundamental that you never think about it?" Gina tried first. "On Earth we have a saying," she began, typing carefully. "All life has value. Not because of what it can do, but because it exists. You matter, Breath. Not because you can help us. Not because you have knowledge we want. You matter because you are alive, because you can think and feel, because you are here. This concept, it is similar to what my people believed, Breath responded, but we died for that belief. The galaxy showed us that such thinking is weakness. The strong survive. The useful are protected. But the Valdrine who only offered kindness were eliminated. How can you believe in the value of life when the universe itself proves otherwise? Jiho sat down on the floor, his back against a crate. You're right that the universe doesn't care. Space is cold and empty. Most of it wants to kill us. We're fragile beings in an uncaring cosmos. But that's exactly why we have to care. He searched for the right words. If the universe is cold, we must be warm. If it is uncaring, we must care enough for both. We cannot control the universe, Breath, but we can control ourselves. We can choose to be kind even when it is not rewarded. We can choose to help even when it is not logical. Because if we do not, if we become as cold and calculating as the universe around us, then what is the point of surviving? The medical bay was completely silent except for the hum of machines. Breath's patterns went still, then slowly began to glow brighter. I spent 50 years believing I was a remnant, a useless piece of a dead civilization. I waited to die because I thought my existence had no meaning. But you have taught me something. You have shown me that I was asking the wrong question. What question? Hana asked. I asked, what is my purpose? What can I provide? How can I be useful? But you teach a different question. Not what can I do, but simply that I am. Existence itself is the answer. I am, therefore I matter. Is this correct? Yes, Gina said, tears streaming down her face. That's exactly right. Then I choose to live, Breath declared, the patterns blazing across its skin like fireworks. You stayed for me when the entire galaxy left. You fought for me when logic said to quit. You gave me something I thought lost forever. Hope. Not hope that I will be useful or purposeful or meaningful in some grand way. Simply hope that being alive is enough. That I am enough. The creature's massive body shifted slightly, the first voluntary movement it had made in weeks. I will fight with you now. I will try to live. Not because I owe you a debt, though I do, but because you showed me that life itself is worth fighting for. Commander Hyun had to organize the crew because half of them were crying. Hardened engineers and tough security officers wiped their eyes and hugged each other. Even Jiho's voice was rough when he spoke. We have work to do, he said. Breath is choosing to fight. We need to give everything we have to help. Suho, what do you need? The surgeon straightened up, all business despite his red eyes. More nutrients, better circulation of the glowing fluid, and time. If Breath is actively trying to heal, the regeneration might kick in sooner than we thought. Then let's make it happen, Jiho ordered. As the crew scattered to their tasks with renewed energy, Gina stayed behind. She typed one more message to Breath. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for choosing to live. You are not alone anymore. Breath's response was simple but profound. Neither are you. We breathe together now. The warning came through at 3 a.m, station time. Yuna was on watch when her sensors detected a massive ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel. She recognized the design immediately and felt her blood go cold. Catharan warship, and it was heading straight for Haven's Gate. Within minutes, Captain Jiho was on the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket. The view screen showed a vessel that made the Resilience look like a toy. It was all sharp angles and weapon arrays, painted the dark red that the Catharan Empire used for military vessels. They know, Yuna said quietly. Someone told them Breath is here. Jiho's jaw tightened. Get everyone to battle stations. And wake up Breath. They need to know what's happening. The Catharan ship stopped just outside the station's neutral zone. A communication request came through immediately. When Jiho accepted it, a Catharan commander appeared on screen. The alien looked vaguely reptilian, with scales instead of skin and eyes that held no warmth. Human vessel Resilience, the commander said in perfect English. I am Commander Vrex of the Catharan Imperial Fleet. You are harboring a criminal of the Empire. Surrender the Valdrine immediately. Criminal? Jiho kept his voice steady. What crime has Breath committed? The creature you call Breath has evaded Imperial justice for 50 years. It is the last remnant of a species that interfered with Catharan expansion. By Imperial law, all Valdrine were sentenced to elimination. This one's crime is survival itself. Around the bridge, the crew exchanged horrified looks. Breath's crime was living. That was all. We're in neutral space, Jiho said firmly. Haven's Gate operates under Galactic Council jurisdiction. You have no authority here. Commander Vrex's smile was not pleasant. The Council is weak and disorganized. They will not challenge the Empire over one dying animal. I will ask once more. Surrender the Valdrine and we will leave peacefully. Refuse and we will take it by force. Then you'll have to take it by force, Jiho said. Because we won't hand over an innocent life. Not today. Not ever, he cut the communication. In the medical bay, Breath's patterns flashed with distress. Gina was there, translating frantically. You must give me to them, Breath pleaded. I am not worth a war. I am not worth your lives. That's not your choice to make, Jiho said, entering the bay. And you're wrong. You are worth fighting for. But you cannot win. Their ship will destroy yours in moments. Probably, Jiho agreed. He smiled grimly. But we're stubborn. It's a human trait. He returned to the bridge where Taiyang was already working on a desperate plan. The engineer pulled up schematics of the station. The station has old defense systems, Taiyang explained rapidly. They haven't been used in decades, but they're still there. If I can get them online, we can create a shield around this section of the station. It won't stop a full assault, but it'll slow them down. Do it, Jiho ordered. How long do you need? 4 hours. Maybe 5? You have 3. Kyung, plot evasive maneuvers. If they attack, I want us moving. Pilot Kyung Bae nodded, his hands already dancing across his controls. We can't outrun them, Captain. And we can't outgun them. But I can be annoying. That'll have to be enough. Jiho opened a channel to the station administrator, a nervous Morpheus named Kelvin who had been watching the situation with growing alarm. Administrator, I need access to the defense grid. Captain Quan, with all respect, I cannot involve the station in a conflict with the Catharan Empire. They will destroy us all. They'll destroy us whether you help or not, Jiho countered. But if you help, we might slow them down enough for other ships to arrive. This is a neutral zone. An attack here violates a dozen treaties. If we can hold out and broadcast what's happening, other species will have to respond. Kelvin's colors flickered with indecision. Finally, he said, You have access to the defense grid, but if we all die, I'm going to be very upset with you. If we die, I'll apologize personally, Jiho promised. While Taeyang raced to bring the ancient systems online, Jiho made a decision that would change everything. He opened a broadcast channel to every ship within range. He didn't encrypt it. He wanted everyone to hear. This is Captain Jiho Quan of the Earthship Resilience. We are currently protecting a member of the Valdrine species, one of the last survivors of their people. The Catharan Empire has demanded we surrender this innocent being to be executed. Their crime? Surviving. Their threat? Being different. He took a breath and continued. The Catharan commander says the Galactic Council won't challenge them. That the Council is too weak, too disorganized, too afraid. Maybe that's true. But I want every being in this sector to know what is happening here. The Empire wants to commit murder in neutral space, and they believe no one will stop them. His voice grew stronger. I am one human captain with one small ship. My crew and I cannot stop a Catharan warship, but we will stand between them and an innocent life for as long as we can. We will fight for a being who has done no harm, who offers no threat, who simply wants to live. Because if compassion is a crime in this galaxy, if protecting the innocent is wrong, then humanity will stand guilty. He closed the broadcast and waited. Minutes ticked by in tense silence. Then Yuna spoke, her voice filled with wonder. Captain, you need to see this. On the view screen, ships were moving. A merchant vessel from the Valorian fleet. 2 independent traders. A Morpheus science ship. They weren't moving toward the Catharan warship, but they weren't leaving either. They positioned themselves around the station, creating a loose perimeter. More ships arrived. A Quintari medical transport. A civilian cruiser. Even a few small personal vessels. None of them were military. None of them could fight a Catharan warship. But they came anyway. The communication channel lit up with messages from the ships. They were all variations of the same thing. We stand with the resilience. Commander Vrex appeared on screen again, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. Human, you are making a mistake. These ships cannot protect you. Maybe not, Jiho agreed. But you'll have to go through them to get to us. And every species will see you do it. Every news service will report it. The Empire will be the force that murdered an innocent in neutral space while dozens of witnesses watched. Is that the image the Empire wants? Vrex's expression darkened. This is not over, human. The Empire has a long memory. So do we, Jiho replied calmly. The Catharan warship held position for another hour, its weapons locked on the Resilience. Then slowly it began to back away. Freck sent one final message. The creature will die anyway, human. You have only delayed the inevitable, and you have made an enemy of the Empire. We'll take our chances, Jiho said. The warship jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished. The bridge crew erupted in cheers, hugging each other and shouting with relief. But Jiho didn't celebrate. He was receiving another alert from Suho in the medical bay. The stress of the confrontation had caused Breath's condition to deteriorate dramatically. All the progress they had made was unraveling. We have hours, Suho said, his face grim on the screen. Maybe less? The fear and stress triggered some kind of cascade failure. Captain, I don't know if we can save Breath now. Jiho looked at his celebrating crew, then at the ship still surrounding the station. All these beings had come together to protect one life. They couldn't let it end like this. Get me every medical expert still at the station, he ordered. I don't care what species they are. If they can help, I want them in the medical bay now. Captain, most of them said it was hopeless. That was before. This is now. We just proved that standing together matters. Let's see if we can prove it again. The medical bay had become a desperate battlefield. Breath lay still, the glowing patterns across its skin fading to almost nothing. Every monitor showed vital signs dropping. Suho worked frantically, his hands moving with practiced precision, but his face showed the truth. They were losing. Blood pressure equivalent dropping, called out one of the medical team. Oxygen circulation at 30% and falling. Hana stood frozen, staring at her patient. 4 weeks of work, 4 weeks of hope. And now, in just a few hours, it was all falling apart. Then something unexpected happened. The doors to the medical bay opened and aliens began to enter. First came a Valorian doctor carrying medical supplies, then a Quentari medic, its crystalline form shimmering with purpose. A Morpheus healer. 2 Threlian surgeons. They were the same species who had declared Breath a lost cause and left weeks ago, but now they were here, offering help. We saw your broadcast, the Valorian doctor said quietly to Jiho. We saw what you did, standing against the Catharan Empire when everyone said it was impossible. We were ashamed. We left when we should have stayed. If you will permit us, we would like to help now. Jiho felt his throat tighten with emotion. Please, we need all the help we can get. The aliens joined the human crew, sharing their knowledge and equipment. The Quentari medic had specialized scanners that revealed details the human sensors had missed. The Threlian surgeons understood energy-based biological systems. Working together, they began to understand Breath's biology in ways no single species could have achieved alone. But understanding wasn't enough. Breath was still dying and time was running out. Suho gathered everyone for an emergency meeting. Here's our situation, he said bluntly. Breath's regenerative system shut down completely due to the stress. It's like a computer that's crashed. The system is still there, but it's not running. Can we restart it? Taeyang asked. Maybe. If we flood Breath's system with massive amounts of nutrients and hit it with a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse, we might shock the regeneration back online. But it's incredibly risky. The pulse could kill Breath instantly. What happens if we don't try? Jiho asked, though he already knew the answer. Breath dies within 2 hours. The crew looked at each other, faces grim. They had come so far, fought so hard. Now everything came down to one desperate gamble. We need to ask Breath, Gina said quietly. It's their life. They deserve to choose. They woke Breath, whose consciousness had been drifting. Through Gina's translation system, they explained the situation. The procedure was dangerous. It might fail, but it was the only chance. Breath's response came slowly. The light patterns weak but clear. I trust you. You stayed when the stars themselves would have left me. You fought an empire to protect me. You showed me that life has value simply by existing. If I die now, I die knowing I mattered. But if you think there is a chance, I choose to take it. I choose to fight for life as you have fought for me. Jiho placed his hand on the observation window. Then let's do this together. The next 2 hours were the longest of anyone's life. Every crew member had a role to play. Taeyang reconfigured the engines to produce the electromagnetic pulse. The alien doctors prepared massive doses of nutrient solution. Suho coordinated everyone, making sure each action happened at precisely the right moment. They moved Breath to the center of the cargo bay. where the electromagnetic field would be strongest. Cables and tubes connected the creature to every available power source. The resilience dimmed as every ounce of energy was channeled toward this one desperate attempt. "Everyone ready?" Suho called out. Acknowledgements came from around the bay, humans and aliens working together, united in purpose. Jiho stood at the front, his hands clenched into fists. "Do it," he ordered. Taeyang initiated the sequence. The engines roared to life, producing a sound the ship had never made before. Energy flowed through the cables into Breath's massive body. The nutrient solution pumped into the creature's system in a controlled flood. Every monitor spiked red. For 3 agonizing minutes, Breath convulsed. The creature's body thrashed, threatening to tear free of the restraints. Alarms screamed. Several crew members looked away, unable to watch. Then suddenly everything stopped. The monitors flatlined. Breath went completely still. The glowing patterns disappeared entirely. "No," Hana whispered. "No, no, no!" Suho checked his instruments, his hands shaking. "I'm not getting any readings, nothing. We've lost." A single light flickered on Breath's skin, then another, and another. Within seconds, the creature's entire body was blazing with light patterns more brilliant than anything they had ever seen. Colors that had never appeared before danced across the skin. The monitors came back online, but the readings made no sense. "That can't be right," one of the Threlian surgeons said. "These numbers, they're off the scale." "The regeneration activated," the Quintari medic announced, its voice filled with awe. "Not just activated. It's running at full capacity. I've never seen anything like this." Over the next hour, they watched in amazement as Breath healed before their eyes. Wounds that had been open for weeks closed in minutes. The glowing fluid in the creature's system brightened and flowed smoothly. Damaged tissue repaired itself at an incredible rate. 6 hours after the procedure, Breath was not just stable. Breath was healing, really healing. 7 days later, Breath woke fully for the first time. The creature's massive eye opened and focused on the crew gathered around the observation window. The light patterns that emerged were complex and beautiful. Gina translated, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for believing. Thank you for teaching me that kindness exists not because it is logical, but because it is necessary." Breath continued, the patterns flowing faster. "My people had a word for what you have shown me. We called it starfire, the light that persists in darkness. You humans carry this fire. You brought it into my darkness and refused to let it die. I was wrong to believe compassion was weakness. I watched the strong survive, but they survived empty. You survive with purpose, with meaning, with heart." Over the following weeks, Breath recovered fully. The regeneration continued beyond anyone's expectations. The creature grew stronger, healthier, more vibrant. Breath shared knowledge of the ancient Veldrine, their technology, their philosophy, their understanding of biology and consciousness. But more than knowledge, Breath offered something precious, hope that compassion still had a place in the galaxy. News of what happened at Haven's Gate spread through every system. Some species dismissed it as sentiment, but others began to question their own values. If humans could achieve the impossible through stubborn compassion, what else might be possible? The day finally came when the Resilience prepared to leave the station. Breath, now fully recovered, had chosen to remain with the human crew. The creature wanted to travel with them, to learn more about humanity and to serve as a bridge between humans and the ancient species of the galaxy. The crew gathered on the bridge for departure. Ships from a dozen species had gathered to see them off. It was very different from their arrival when they had been alone. A message came through from the Galactic Council. They wanted to meet with Captain Jiho to discuss what had happened. Some council members were angry. Others were curious. But all of them acknowledged that something significant had occurred at Haven's Gate. Jiho stood at the captain's chair, his crew around him. They looked different now. Harder maybe, more tired, but also stronger, more confident. They had done something everyone said was impossible. "Captain," Kyung said from the pilot station, "we're ready to jump to light speed." "Where to?" Jiho smiled. "Home. I think Earth needs to meet our new friend." As the Resilience prepared to jump, a final message came through from a journalist who had covered the entire event. "Captain Kwan, one question before you go. Why did you do it? Why risk everything for one alien creature?" Jiho thought about his answer carefully. Then he said, "Because everyone deserves someone who stays." The measure of a civilization isn't its technology or its power. It's what we do when no one is watching, when there's no reward. When the logical choice is to walk away, we stayed because leaving would have cost us something no technology can restore. Our humanity. He paused, then added, "In a galaxy that values logic and efficiency, we proved there's still room for something illogical, inefficient, and absolutely essential. Hope, compassion, the belief that every life matters." "And would you do it again?" the journalist asked. "If faced with the same situation?" Jiho looked at his crew. At Hana, who had worked impossible hours. At Taeyang, who had made miracles from spare parts. At Suho, who had refused to give up. At Gina, who had bridged the gap between species. At every single person who had chosen to stay. Every single time, he said firmly. The Resilience jumped to light speed, carrying its crew and its honored passenger toward Earth. Behind them, Haven's Gate Station returned to normal operations. But nothing was quite the same. The aliens who had witnessed what happened would carry the memory forever. In the cargo bay, Breath rested contentedly, glowing patterns dancing across its skin. Through the translation system, the creature sent one final message that Gina shared with the crew.